I almost didn't answer that call. It was 2 days before Christmas. Snow was falling outside my apartment window, soft and slow. Like the world was trying to quiet itself. I had just finished a 12-hour shift, and my phone kept buzzing on the kitchen counter. Home? Flashed on the screen. I stared at it like it was a warning sign. I hadn't been back in 3 years, not after the argument. Not after the things that were said. Not after the way they chose him over me. The phone stopped ringing. Then it rang again. Something in my chest tightened. Guilt has a strange ringtone. It sounds exactly like persistence. I picked up. My mother's voice came through. Smaller than I remembered. Are you busy? That was new. She never asked that before. She used to assume my time belonged to the family by default. I just got home, I said. A pause. A breath. Then 3 words that changed everything. Your father collapsed. The room felt colder. Not dead. But not okay. Hospital. Tests. Weak heart needs care, needs someone home. Then came the sentence I should have predicted, but still didn't see coming. We need you here for the holidays. Need, not want, need. Funny how that word shows up only when you're useful. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. 3 years ago when I needed them, they were not taking sides. But now suddenly they were taking mine. Or at least borrowing it. I'll think about it, I said. My mother didn't argue. That scared me more than if she had. When the call ended, the apartment felt too quiet. I told myself I'd sleep on it. I already knew I wouldn't. Because some calls ask for an answer. They collect a debt. And whether you owe it or not, they come to collect anyway. The drive back felt longer than it ever had before. Every mile was a memory I didn't ask to revisit. The broken gas station sign where my brother once left me stranded after borrowing my car. The diner where my parents celebrated his promotion and forgot my graduation the same week. The church where everyone said family is forever, as long as you stay quiet. Snow lined the streets like untouched apologies. The house looked exactly the same. That hurt more than if it had changed. Same porch light. Same crooked mailbox. Same wind chime that used to wake me up on summer nights. I stood at the door longer than necessary. You ever hesitate before touching something that once burned you? That was me. I knocked. My mother opened the door and hugged me too fast, like she wanted to skip the awkward part. You look tired, she said. You look older, I replied automatically. We both pretended that was normal conversation. Inside, the house smelled like medicine and cinnamon candles. Holiday cheer trying to hide hospital fear. My father sat in a recliner, wrapped in blankets, thinner than I remembered. Smaller. For a second, just one, I felt like a terrible person for staying away. Then I remembered why I did. My brother wasn't there. Where's Daniel? I asked. My mother waved it off. Busy work trip, important meetings. Of course, he was always busy when responsibility showed up. But never busy when credit did. I sat with my father. We talked about safe topics, weather, traffic, how expensive groceries had become. Conversations that never touched truth. Then he held my wrist weakly and said, "Good thing you came. We were worried." Interesting word again. Not missed you. Not wanted you. Worried. Like I was an insurance policy that finally renewed. That night I unpacked in my old room. Same wallpaper. Same crack in the ceiling. Same feeling in my chest. Some places don't change. They just wait. The next morning, reality showed its real face. It started at breakfast. My mother slid a folder across the table like it was just another plate. "What's this?" I asked. "Care schedule," she said casually. "Medication times, therapy visits, dietary notes." I blinked. "Okay, good to know. You'll need it." I laughed lightly. "Need it for what?" She didn't laugh back. "For taking care of your father." There it was. Not a request, a handoff. "I'm here for Christmas," I said slowly. "A few days." She shook her head. "I can't manage alone. Your brother is traveling. Your aunt refused. The nurse only comes twice a week." "We assumed you'd stay." Assumed. There it is, the family word for volunteering someone else's life. "For how long?" I asked. "A month maybe, until he's stable." A month. My job. My lease. My life, all apparently flexible in their imagination. "You didn't ask me," I said quietly. She sighed, annoyed now, like I was making logistics emotional. You're the only one who can. No. I was the only one who would. Big difference. My father looked uncomfortable. My mother looked determined. I looked trapped. You always were the dependable one, she added. That sentence has ruined more people than insults ever have. Dependable children grow into insulted adults. I should have said no. I should have stood up. I should have protected my peace. Instead, I heard myself say, "Fine, I'll stay for now." And just like that, my holiday visit became unpaid full-time care. No contract, no thanks, no choice. Just expectation. And expectations are the heaviest chains because they look invisible. 4. The golden child returns. Daniel arrived 3 days later. No suitcase stress. No tired eyes. No guilt. Just confidence and expensive cologne. He walked in loud, warm, charming, like a guest star in a show he didn't help produce. "There's my hero, Caretaker," he said, clapping my shoulder. Hero. People love using that word when they don't want to help. He hugged our parents, checked his phone twice during it, then sat down like the house was a hotel lobby. "How bad is it?" he asked, nodding toward Dad. "Serious," I said. He nodded thoughtfully, the way people nod at weather reports. "Tough. That's it. Tough? Not scary. Not unfair, just tough." "You're staying, right?" he asked me. "Apparently. Good. You're better at this stuff." This stuff. He meant sacrifice. By dinner. It was clear nothing had changed. My mother praised his career moves. My father admired his business risks. I reheated soup and checked medication timers. Same roles. Same script. But something inside me was different now. I wasn't the ignored sibling anymore. I was the useful one. And useful people learn everything. They see everything. They remember everything. That would matter later. A lot later. Because the truth about families isn't revealed during celebrations. It's revealed during dependence. And dependence had just begun. The first week passed like a slow storm, not loud, not dramatic, just constant. Every morning started before sunrise, medication at 6. Blood pressure check at 6:30. Light breakfast at 7. Walk attempt at 8, which usually became a sit down after 5 steps and a frustrated sigh. My father hated needing help, but he hated admitting it even more. "Don't hover," he would snap, while reaching for support at the same time. Dependence makes strong people angry, and anger looks for the closest target. That was usually me. Daniel, on the other hand, moved through the house like a visiting celebrity. He stayed on calls, closed deals, talked loudly about investments, and told everyone how proud he was that I stepped up. Stepped up. Not gave up my life, not paused everything, just stepped up. One afternoon, while sorting prescriptions, I noticed something strange. 2 insurance cards. 2 different policies. One active, one recently changed. I checked the dates again. The better coverage, the one that would pay for daily home nursing, had been cancelled 3 months ago. 3 months. Before the collapse, I walked into the living room holding the card. "Why was this cancelled?" I asked. My mother looked confused. "Cancelled? This plan covered home care." Daniel answered before she could. "Too expensive," he said casually, not looking up from his laptop. "Didn't make sense financially." Didn't make sense. Funny, it made sense now. "Who decided that?" I asked. He shrugged. "I handle the financial planning." Of course he did. The golden child always handles the money. And the dependable one handles the consequences. My father looked uneasy. "We agreed as a family." "No, they informed as a family. There's a difference. With that plan," I said carefully, "you'd have daily professional support right now." Daniel smiled, the kind of smile that tries to close conversations. "Well, good thing we have you." There it was again. Not regret. Replacement. I went back to the kitchen, but something had shifted in my chest. A small crack in the story they were telling me. And cracks let light in. Or truth out. That night exhaustion hit me harder than expected. Caretaking isn't just physical, it's emotional weightlifting. You carry moods, fears, tension, silence. Around midnight, I went downstairs for water and heard voices. Low, urgent, Daniel and my mother. "She doesn't need to know the full situation," Daniel whispered. My hand froze on the railing. "Know what?" My mother sounded worried. "But how long can we hide it?" "Until the refinance clears," he said. "After that it won't matter." "Refinance? Hide what?" My pulse was suddenly loud enough to hear. I stepped back before the floorboard could betray me. When you grow up in a house, you learn where it speaks. Back in my room, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and replayed every conversation since I arrived. Insurance cancelled. Urgent need for me to stay. Financial stress, whispered talks. This wasn't just about health. This was about money. And somehow I was part of the plan without being told the plan. Morning came with forced smiles and burnt toast. Daniel was extra friendly. Too friendly. He poured my coffee himself. That never happens without an agenda. You're doing amazing, he said, seriously. We couldn't manage without you. Compliments from him were like contracts, always attached to hidden terms. What aren't you telling me? I asked directly. He laughed. Too quick. What do you mean? I heard you last night. A pause. A calculation behind his eyes. Just budgeting stress, he said smoothly. Don't add worry to your plate. Translation: stay useful, stay uninformed. People think betrayal starts with lies. It doesn't. It starts with selective truth. Later that day, I took my father to his follow-up appointment. While he was in testing, the nurse asked a simple question. Are you the live-in caregiver? I hesitated. Temporarily. She checked the file. It says long-term family caretaker assigned. Assigned. Not visiting. Assigned. With signature. She added. I leaned forward. Whose signature? She turned the screen slightly. Daniel's. My name, written in his handwriting, on the caretaker authorization line. No permission. No call. No discussion. Just decided. My stomach dropped slowly like an elevator with cut cables. I smiled politely until we left. Some shocks are too big to show in public. In the parking lot, cold air hit my face, and with it clarity. I wasn't invited home. I was positioned. You placed exactly where they needed me. When they needed me, without asking whether I was willing. That realization didn't feel like anger yet. It felt like awakening. And awakenings are quiet at first. But never harmless. When we got home, Daniel waved from the porch like nothing in the world was broken. I waved back. Same gesture. Different meaning. Because now I wasn't just the caretaker anymore. I was watching. And when you start watching closely, family stories begin to fall apart. Days turned into weeks. The house didn't just feel like a home anymore. It felt like a stage. I moved through it silently, performing the duties they assigned without ever needing to be asked twice. Meals prepared, medications on time, laundry folded, appointments scheduled. Every task a quiet testament to the invisible chains I had willingly stepped into. Meanwhile, Daniel continued his parade of charm. He brought friends over under the guise of holiday visits, flaunted his achievements, and whispered half-truths to my parents about financial matters. All while I cleaned up the aftermath. Conversations that once felt casual now carried hidden meanings. Every decision, every word, every family need was somehow tied to him. One afternoon, I found myself alone in the study. Papers littered the desk, bills, insurance statements, and notices I had never seen before. My eyes landed on a folder labeled Estate and Assets. Something inside me tensed. Curiosity is dangerous. Especially when you're a caretaker in a house full of secrets. I opened it carefully. My heart sank as I scanned through multiple accounts. Properties in my father's name, and one letter that made my blood run cold. Daniel had been maneuvering the family finances behind the scene for years. Consolidating assets, cancelling coverage, and ensuring the household remained dependent on him. And I had been positioned in exactly the way he wanted. Caring for my father, keeping my mother occupied, while he orchestrated control from the outside. Everything clicked. The cancelled insurance. The whispered late-night conversations. The constant need for me to stay. I wasn't just a caretaker. I was a pawn. I confronted my mother. Her reaction was subtle at first. Confusion, disbelief, a quiet shaking of her head. Daniel, he's controlling things, I asked, voice low. She avoided my eyes. He just wanted to make sure everything was in order. In order. I snapped softly, unable to hide my rising anger. He cancelled coverage that could have helped Dad, made you hide things from me, and then acts like I'm some volunteer hero. Mom, this is manipulation. Tears filled her eyes. Not because I was angry, but because she knew I was right. The truth had been there all along. I spent the next days quietly gathering evidence, receipts, letters, copies of cancelled policies, and notes from the conversations I overheard. The more I collected, the heavier my chest became. But with every piece, a plan formed. I wasn't just watching anymore. I wasn't just the useful one. I was preparing. Daniel didn't notice. He never did. He assumed I was too caught up in caretaking to see the full picture. That arrogance is dangerous, especially when underestimating someone you've wronged. Then came the day of the dinner party, an annual gathering of distant relatives. Daniel planned it meticulously, boasting to everyone about how smoothly everything ran in the house, and how grateful they were for me. Everyone complimented me. Everyone praised Daniel. Everyone except me. I smiled through it all, hiding the storm building inside. When everyone left, I finally confronted him alone. "You've been playing a game with my family," I said, calm but sharp. "Do you even realize how far you've gone? Canceling Dad's insurance, controlling Mom, using me as a pawn." He laughed, dismissively, arrogantly. "A little planning never hurt anyone. Besides, you've been doing an amazing job. Couldn't have done it without you." I felt a surge of fury, but I kept my composure. "I'm done being your pawn. Everything you've done, I've documented. Every secret, every manipulation, it's all here." I tapped the folder. His expression changed. The first crack in his mask. "You think threatening me will?" He started, but I interrupted. "This isn't a threat, this is reality. And reality catches up to people who believe they're untouchable." For the first time, Daniel hesitated. The house had gone quiet. My father's weak cough from the next room reminded me why I had stayed. Not for him. Not for her. Not for the appearances. But for the truth. Because sometimes, the only way to protect what matters is to face betrayal head on. And the reckoning was just beginning. The next morning, the house felt different. Even the air seemed heavier, charged with unspoken truths. I moved through it like a storm, quietly gathering strength, preparing for the moment I knew had to come. Daniel was in his usual spot, laptop open, coffee in hand, pretending everything was normal. But I could see the cracks now, the faint hesitation behind his confident mask. I called a family meeting. Not a fight, not an accusation, a reckoning. My mother shuffled papers nervously. My father sat quietly, his hands folded on his lap, unaware of the full extent of what was about to unfold. Daniel raised an eyebrow, as if I was about to compliment him, not dismantle him. I started calmly. "There are things that have happened while I was taking care of Dad, decisions made, coverages cancelled, information withheld." I held up the folder, letting it catch the morning light. "I have documentation of everything." Silence. My father's eyes widened. My mother's hands trembled. Daniel's face tightened, that practiced composure cracking just slightly. "Every plan, every whisper, every secret," I continued, "was meant to control, to manipulate, and to keep me, the one actually caring for Dad, in the dark." Daniel's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "What?" "I've been silent, I've been patient, and I've done what you expected," I said, my voice firm now. "But the time for silence is over." The weight of truth landed on them all at once. My mother finally spoke, her voice small, shaky. "I didn't know how to stop it." "You didn't try," I said softly, looking at her. "And that's why this went on for so long." Daniel's anger finally broke through his thin veneer of charm. "You think you can expose me and just take control? You have no idea what you're dealing with." I smiled slightly, calm, collected. "I don't need to take control. I need to protect Dad. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else, your greed, your manipulation, ends here." The room was heavy with tension. For the first time in years, the family was silent, forced to confront what had been hidden for so long. Then my father spoke, his voice weak but firm. I didn't know. I trusted him too much. I should have seen it." Daniel's face fell. Pride shattered in a silent, invisible way. He realized that power isn't real if everyone around you can see the truth. I placed the folder on the table. "We fix this now. Proper coverage, proper care, no more secrets, and from now on honesty, real honesty, is the only rule." My mother nodded, tears streaming silently. My father squeezed my hand, weak but grateful. And Daniel, he didn't leave. He stayed. facing the consequences of underestimating the one person he assumed was just a caretaker. The weeks that followed were quiet but transformative. We reorganized the household, restored Dad's coverage, and established real boundaries. Daniel stepped back, his arrogance humbled, his manipulations exposed. My mother learned to voice concern instead of hiding behind excuses. And I learned the weight of being taken for granted, the power of observation, and the quiet strength that comes from standing up, even when no one else believes you can. By the time the next holiday rolled around, the house felt different, not perfect, not without tension, but honest, balanced. A place where care wasn't just expected, it was mutual. And I finally understood something essential: betrayal may hurt, manipulation may trap you, but vigilance, courage, and truth can restore not just a home, but dignity. Because family isn't just blood, family is trust, and trust, once broken, can be rebuilt only with honesty, respect, and action. The weeks after the confrontation were quieter than I expected, but in a good way. The tension that had filled the rooms like smoke slowly began to clear. Daniel stopped treating the house like his personal stage. He no longer walked in with arrogance or expectations. Instead, he observed, finally realizing that respect isn't demanded, it's earned. My mother started asking questions instead of hiding behind them. She began participating in decisions instead of letting Daniel make them all. And my father, he started smiling again. Not because he was well, but because he felt seen, truly cared for, and understood. I kept my duties, of course. Caregiving wasn't something you just turn off, but it no longer felt like a trap. It became a role I chose, not one forced upon me. Every day I reminded myself this wasn't about control. It was about balance, honesty, and doing what was right, even when it was hard. One evening, I stood by the window, watching the first snow of the season fall softly over the familiar rooftops. I thought about the journey, the call I almost ignored, the house that didn't feel like home, the manipulations I uncovered, and the reckoning that finally set everything straight. It hit me. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, woven into everyday life. A cancelled policy, a whispered secret, a subtle expectation. But the damage it does isn't subtle. It leaves a weight in your chest, a storm in your mind, and questions that haunt your nights. What I learned, painfully, sharply and clearly, is that boundaries matter. Observing matters, speaking up matters, and patience is not weakness. Sometimes silence gives power to those who think they control the story. But truth has its own timing. And when it comes, it's unstoppable. I looked at my family, flawed, human, fragile, but capable of change. And I realized something: care is not just a duty. It's a choice. And the choice to act with integrity, even when no one else notices, reshapes not just your life, but theirs too. That Christmas, we didn't just survive, we rebuilt. We redefined roles. And in doing so, I finally understood my own strength, not the kind celebrated with praise or recognition, but the quiet kind that endures, protects, and restores. Some stories are about betrayal. Some are about revenge. Mine became about vigilance, courage, and the quiet power of doing what's right, even when it's inconvenient, unfair, or lonely. Because in the end, family isn't about who controls what. Family is about who shows up, who chooses honesty over convenience, and who refuses to let manipulation shape the people they love. And that was the lesson worth everything I endured. The house felt warm that night, not perfect, not flawless, but real, honest, and finally home.